You see me back here? So today I want to break down these two chignons, and the thing is they are on short hair with layers and with padding, and I want to help you not be afraid of maybe offering the client who doesn't have all the long hair. Not everyone in the wedding party is young and beautiful with long hair. Sometimes it's a second time braid. Hi Marissa. Sometimes second time bride. Sometimes it's a matron of honor, and a lot of times these mid-length layered shorter clients don't think they can have it. So when you say, no, I can do something for you, maybe not a bridesmaid, because something like this you need to have padding and kind of have prepared, but I always invite the bride at the trial to bring along another person, and typically it's the maid of honor or her mom. And then if you do have the opportunity to try a look on the shorter hair with them, then you can create something special. So I'm going to break these down, and we're going to look at the shape. So you can see here, this one has some height in the crown, and this one has more fullness back here. She's got a long enough fringe to go in, so if somebody doesn't have the density or length like me, right, I wouldn't have enough hair to be able to go back and have, there's nothing there. Thank you. And she has more fringe. So let's look at the sectioning system that I always teach, and it's just a way for you to remember and to think about your different areas of the head. So section 1 is always the front. Now here section 1 is fringe. Here section 1 is these bits coming into the back. Section 2 and 3, you can almost see the break right here. Section 2 and 3 are your sides. Section 2 and 3 are your sides. That's just to have you look at the sides, look at the hairline, think how far they'll go back, where can they reach to, and section 4 is the crown. So kind of circling off as much as you need for the crown, and maybe saving yourself some hair on the sides to come back. And this is when the Updo system, you just look up Updo system, it's that idea of breaking the head down and knowing where you have hair and where you need to add hair. So let me just move all these comments over. That always happens. And there we go. Your beautiful comments. I love to see them. But they cover all the head. Okay, so let's look at this pictures. Now, don't look at the hair. Let's look at the neck. So here, you can see the wrinkles here. She does not have a long neck, and she has shoulders that have like a trapezoid that's a little bit more dense. If she was to pick her chin up, this updo would be way down here, which is fine. It's beautiful. It's just a matter for you to really think about their necks. Now she has some neck, a little bit more than her, and then here you have, which I'm sure is a professional model. So if it's a professional hairstyle and a professional model, they're going to have this neck. So sometimes when your matron of honor, your mom or whatever, has a shorter neck, maybe she's got a little extra weight, and she wants what she thinks is in style, which is this, I tend to try to talk them into something like this, to bring the hair up and to lengthen and elongate, and it's more youthful. So this is where you step in as the expert, and you can give your opinions and your recommendations, because we're not just like serving up a menu. We're experienced and we're artists, and we can help them. So let's break down the redhead first. And we will see that there is padding here. And when you have to think about the hair and how much you have to save or leave down here. Tip this just a little bit more. There we go. Okay. It's thinking like, all right, how much do I need for down here? Do I need padding? What does she want here? If she wants fullness here and she wants height here, you might have to add hair, right? So it's just kind of thinking it through. And when you're working with these shorter layers, which you can see, they're right there. They are right there. And it's a matter of taking little bits of hair and just kissing them and pinning them in. So also with this hair, length layers and whatnot, it cannot be silky. You can't rely on pins for holding it in, because that means you're going to keep going flatter and tighter and not this soft loose. So you have to have, now there's wax in here. I can feel the spray wax. There's probably powder at her roots. There's a pre-curl, or at least a hot roller set, and you have to get that texture in. Okay, so this is section 4. You can see I'm just gonna pop it out, and section 4 is the crown. And what you want to sometimes think about is, how much hair do I need for her crown? If she's going with a smoother crown, then you can come a little bit smoother and do something down here. But if she has natural wave, you don't want to flatten it to their head, because they're used to seeing movement. So this is what's going on in these layers here in section 4. You can see literally that it's a section. So what I did was scooped out just the minimal amount of hair for section 4, which gives me as much hair to play with back here. And I'll show you where the padding is. So how deep is her front? How much fringe does she want down? Some of them today, they want like this whole slide, the whole side down, right? So that's section 1. 2 and 3 are the sides. 4 is the crown, and 5 is always the nape. And they're areas of the head. And that just helps you to think through with your choices. I know we've all had a lopsided updo, or we've all run out of hair, or we just for safety we add hair. But sometimes, you don't have that opportunity at a wedding situation, or a show, or a fundraiser, or something like that, and you have to think on your feet. So let's take down the back. I'm going to take out section 2 and 3. It doesn't matter which is which. And these are brought in afterwards. Okay, so 2 and 3 are up here, and these are brought in, and now you can see some of the padding is right here. Let me spin her so you can see the other side. You can see right here, I chose to put this bit of hair into a little elastic. Now, why would I do that? By putting this into a little elastic, I don't have to use as many bobby pins to get this section to stay. I don't have to cross hatch and flatten it to the head. I was able to take a very minimal amount of section 2 or 3, twist it, pinch and pull, get it as super, look at my tail, it's short, get it as super full as possible, just tuck and hide. Okay, this is how short the hair is. So elastics are great for holding the hair, and then literally, this is not heavy, it's not a big section. You can tuck, you can almost take a hairpin. The elastic's going to do the heavy lifting. You can come in to the back, and there's your side, soft and loose. It's not all the twisting. We don't have the length. Okay, so let's continue to break this down. I'm going to pin up now, and so we can show you the padding, and then I'll show you how I make the padding. Always remember that you can go over onto updosystem.com, which is my course platform. There's DIY courses over there, and they are all taught by me, and I break things down so that it's super easy to understand. Especially good for people who don't have a lot of training, you know, from school or whatever the situation is. And if you just learn what's happening today, your career won't be as long, because there's a lot of old school techniques I got to pull out, and then there's a lot of new techniques. All right, so here is a couple of more ways that I cover this padding. Here is a piece from section 5 in the back. So again, I took a small strip from section 5 underneath, put in my elastic, pinched and pulled. You can see how it's softer there, right? I just pulled it out, but I pulled it to get that softness so that when I came up, it had the texture. So think about popping in elastics here and there. They are great. I just use the little clear ones. And so we're going to get now to where the padding is, and then I will show you how I make all my own padding. And another thing too, sometimes if you don't know some of the tricks and you use padding a lot, then you have padding because you need it to pin into, or you think you need it to pin into, but then she has a lot of hair and a lot of length, and the updo just gets huge. So there are so many tricks that you can watch in my videos and over on my YouTube and in the guides that will help you to learn that there's other ways to do updos. Ponytails are great. So, you know, my career mostly was in the 90s and the early to mid 2000s, and so we did a lot of ponytail updos. So now I've taken that construction method and softened it, loosened it, and broken it down. So here is my padding. So basically, you can see this little section here, I just held it in with a hairpin. So basically, I spread out section 5. You don't ever want to put when you don't have the density, this head doesn't have the density. You don't want to put padding on top of hair I'm going to need for the updo. So I kind of spread everything out and pin the padding in. Now the trick is with as little hair as possible to hide it and to cover it. So I'm taking little small strips with my elastic, pinching and pulling, and I'm getting all this movement, and I'm spreading it wide because I want to try to cover the hair or the padding with as little hair as possible, because I want the updo to be soft and full of texture. Okay, so you can see how these are. Now, let's take the padding out. And actually these styles were done live, but I know it's so hard to try to figure out to catch the live, and then there's no thumbnails in the live videos, you know, when you hit the media tab and go to videos, there's a weird goofy picture of me standing in front of this background, and you have no idea what I'm teaching, but you know, click them whenever you see it, and you'll learn some things. Sometimes, most of the times, I will take the lives, I will download them, and then I will edit them, and I'll put them on my YouTube channel. All right, so here's the padding making its way out. And you will see a little tiny trick I used. Sometimes you just can't pin padding to the head. It doesn't feel safe. So this bit of padding, you can see that it's long, and I scooped it in the shape of how I wanted the back to be and how bumpy it is, right? I never use donuts. I cut them, and unless you're doing a ballerina top knot, these just don't have the shape and they're too dense. So I cut them and they become a very long sock, like really long. You cut that donut and it unravels long. So now I can take some fake hair, just this fake Krylon hair, and I stuff it. And so now I can play. So I can wrap, I can do vertical, I can wrap around a ponytail, and these really help you to customize. This one is a Krylon hair. There's some elastics, and this one, let's take it all the way out so you can see it, is in hair netting. So sometimes, you know, I like to do different things. So you can look close and see the Krylon hair has an elastic, it's another elastic, and then I covered it with an old-fashioned hair net. So I've got the exact shape that I need. This is a bride I have in October, and so her piece is used at her trial and all saved and smooth and nice to go. And so what I did to pin this padding in was I made a super tiny elastic ponytail. Tiny, but super solid, right? So I have this base, so pin and wrap and pin and wrap, and that's how I attach. And I'll do this with my wedding veils. Sometimes when the bride has a really long hair and she's wearing something more high, I'll bury a tiny little elastic in her updo, and then I'll slide the teeth underneath the elastic. When you put a comb in, the teeth should go under the bobby pins, under the elastic, and then they stay in well. Just make sure you show someone how to take it out. All right, so that's that look. Let's take down the next one. All right, this head has a little bit of a different thickness, so I stick a hair coloring rubber glove in here. All right. Okay, so you can see again that there's this softness here, and that's because there's just a slight veil. Section 4 is just a slight veil. So pretty much the updo is here. And then when we have too much hair and it's too thick and too dense and too long, and we come down here, then we can't get the fullness. But when it's just kind of like a veil that you lay over, you can play with it a lot more and it'll stay up. So a veil is a really good way to get that movement and pop on the crown, so it doesn't look too stuck to her head. So section 1 is always the front. Now she's a little deeper than the purple head, and section 1 is just the very, very front. 2 and 3 are the sides. Okay, and by breaking, I mean, sure, if you're out of time or whatever, you can wrap all of this and just do it in one section. But in order to get all that detail and all that movement into a look, the smaller sections and bringing them back bit by bit will give you that all that movement, and it just makes it look a little bit more high-end. Okay, let's go over on this side. I think you're getting an eye now. You can see section 5, section 4. Look in your pictures when you're, you know, when you're breaking them down. Section 1 is her fringe. 2 and 3 are the sides. 4 is the crown, and I guarantee you this is a little veil that's just popped on top. And 5 is the back. Section 1 is her fringe. 2 and 3 are the sides. 4 is the crown, and 5 comes up. Okay, and I did this one live too, so I always use that sectioning. So let's bring out 2 and 3. So here is section 1, 2, and 3. And so say I'm doing a braided mohawk, right? How does that work? Well, section 1 would go straight back. Section 4 would be skinnier, and it would morph into it, right? And then maybe 2 and 3 do something else. Maybe these are tight little cornrows or something. So it's just a way of thinking about the head and breaking it down so you can rebuild. All right, so let's look at the back and the padding for this style. So here is part of section 5. So we have the little veil of hair at the crown that's going to lay over. So you have part of section 4 now that is kind of going into section 5. It's never a rule. It's a suggestion, and it's a way of thinking about the head and breaking down your construction. And it's also very, very helpful if you have super long, super thick hair to hide. You've got to hide. You can't work with all that hair. The piece will be too big on her head. So there's ways to take a big chunk of section 4 and braid it tight and wrap it tight and then put everything on top of it. And so you've, eliminated a lot of hair. So that's what the sections are all about. All right, so we're getting to the padding. So for this piece, so again, part of section 4 and 5 comes back, and then you can break it up and put it in all little different areas. When you just start pulling back, twisting and pinning, you're pinning on top, on top, on top. This is more of an internal kind of construction that will make the shorter hair go further, and the look won't be so thick and heavy sometimes. So here is my padding right under there. You can see how little hair I used up to hide the padding because there's not a lot of hair. And you can see here, so I want that more of that bulby look, so I stuck a pin in here to create that more, that rounded feel. So a little veil at the bottom of section 4, top of section 5, whatever you have in that area, and a little veil at the nape. Let me tick her up so you can see. Alright, and so here is the padding. And I'm going to undo the padding. Whenever I teach at a school, I always bring my heads that are together and I take them apart, because sometimes it's helpful to see things come apart than always going up, because your brain, when you're seeing something come together, is like, oh, I got to do this right. Well, I'm messing with your brain. I'm taking it apart because I don't want you to think about doing it right. I want you to understand the steps and the thinking through. So in the last one, for some of you who just popped on, I have one tiny little ponytail that I attached the padding to. Because this one is more wider and lower, she's a little lower with her chignon, I did 2 tiny little ponytails. So it gave me a really great place to pin, and then I use that hair to help cover. Two little tiny ponytails, leaving a little bit of veil at her nape, so when I put the padding in, I can come up and just hide it with a minimal amount of hair and then build on top. So piece by piece, section by section, and I hope you learn some good tricks, and that's it for today. Take care. If you have any questions, guys, I'm right here. I'm full-time here for you, and any questions, please just reach out. Thank you. Bye.